Well, hey guys, thanks for joining me. Now, this is my final video um, concerning the last two videos I made. I think that I have said what I felt like I needed to say. Maybe try to answer some of the questions that were in the comment section. But those two videos got over 500 comments, and I would say 30 out of 500, a little over, of people who did not agree with what I did, didn't think I should call out my own kind, either thought I was lying about not having bad customer service from Caucasian or Latino cashiers or whatever, and or either made excuses for why, sisters were so rude. So I will try to answer those questions because I think it'll give you some insight. But after that, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. There are a whole lot of channels on YouTube that talk about why Black women need to pull up. So if that's what you really like, well, you can seek out one of those, but it is not my intention to turn this channel into something like that. So without further ado, let's get on. Okay, first, let's address the fact that I said I really never received bad customer service from Caucasian or Latino, which is true. And part of the reason for that is that I live in a small town, about 45 minutes from a major metropolitan area. And a lot of those people use my town and the town I used to live in as bedroom communities. Well, these people are a little more enlightened, and so they don't tolerate racism. The quickest way to have your company go out of business is to have employees who talk down to anybody, especially a minority. So, no, none of the business owners would ever allow a Caucasian employee to even look like they were rude to a minority. Now, we had two Indian gas stations, one in the town I live in now and one in the town I used to live in. Unfortunately, Indians never got that memo, and they were actually rude to everybody. Neither one of those gas stations are in business any longer. You could go to any gas station in town and they would never have any customers. And that is what happens when you are rude, whether it be but to minorities or anybody else in a town of people who are well educated and have money. Plain and simple. Now, if you live in an urban environment, well, people like Indians, probably, no matter how rude they are, if you are in the desert and that's the only place you have to go, well, you're going to still go. But in the towns I live in, even though they're small, they have lots of other outlets. You never have to go to people like that. That's my answer because it's the truth. Someone asked, why was it I didn't have any African American employees and why did I feel the need to mention it? Well, honestly, it's because it was true. Remember, small town. Now, I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, but then we moved to the suburbs when I was 10. In that case, there were no real fears. There were no real prejudices. There were no real people we considered out to get us because it just wasn't really there. But in the town I live in now and the one I did before, a lot of people in my age group and older grew up with severe segregation and prejudice. And unfortunately, a lot of people can't ever get past that. So when I opened up a small professional cleaning service and put notices in the newspaper for employees, nobody Black applied. In their mind, that was taking a step back. My own former mother in law, I offered her a job in my office just to answer the phones a couple of hours a day, a couple of days a week. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law, ex, was a domestic. And that was the best she could do at the time. And that's what she did most of her life. And she has absolutely resented it. Even though I tried to explain to her that it was different now. Back then, you had no control. Now I have all the control. I can decide what we do, what we don't do. I can decide what we get paid, and I can decide whether or not I want to take someone as a client. She just still didn't care. So for me to open a cleaning service, in her mind, felt like a slap in the face. And when I offered her the job in the office, she just didn't want to have to talk with those people. And she didn't like the fact that my employees were white. So if you have those kinds of attitudes and you pass them down onto your children, who are probably 40, 50, 60 now, because while my ex-mother-in-law is deceased, she would probably be about 90 now. So if you experienced that and you never got past it, and then you passed it on to your children, well, no, 30-year-olds didn't want to do it. So what was I supposed to do? Close the business? No, I used the people who were willing to do it. And eventually I also added Latinos to that group. I mean, you do what you have to do, but it was not because I didn't want them. It's because they didn't want me. Plain and simple. Someone asked me if I thought it was mostly the young generation that was rude. Now, remember, I may live in a different demographic than you do, so I can only go by my own experience. And I have lived in this area since I was 26 years old. Today is my birthday, and I turned 64. So you can understand I've been here a minute. What I see is the younger people, 20 and 30, they're preoccupied. If there aren't some strict rules at their place of employment about being on their phone, then it's really hard to get their attention when you need help. But after you get their attention, they're usually competent, they're usually engaging, they're actually usually pretty polite. The other day, I was trying to read the hours on a front door at a business. And so I got a little close to the curve and my back wheel hit the curve. And so there was a young man in the parking lot and he saw the whole thing. And when I looked over, I saw him laughing and I can't say I blame him. So the store wasn't going to open for another 15 minutes. So I pulled into the parking lot. This young man, African American, okay, I'm going to say he was about 30. That's what I'm going to say. And so he approached the truck, but then he stopped at what he considered a non-threatening distance. And he said, "Are you okay?" And so I felt safe enough to roll down the window. And I said, "Yes, I am. Just one of those days." And he started laughing. And he goes, "Let me take a look at your back wheel." So he walks around the truck and looks at my back wheel. And he goes, "Ma'am, you probably should get some air in that sooner rather than later." And I said, "Thank you, young man." What a wonderful young man. What a wonderful young man. So, yes, I would say, in my opinion, the younger generation, 2030, they are actually really nice young people, just so damn preoccupied with their phones. Now, when you get to 40, 50, something like that, that's where I seem to have my problems in face to face interactions. That was the age group of the lady at Martin's who realized that she had basically ignored a customer, and then when she realized what was going on, she tried to get the customer to come in front of me so she could take care of her because I'm sure she didn't want to have a complaint on her. Now, if this woman had leaned into me and said, "Look, I really should have taken her. Do you mind if I just take her first so I don't get in trouble?" I would have said, "You know what, sister, I understand. Just be more careful in the future. I myself would have said to the white lady waiting, ma'am, you can get in front of me. I know you've been waiting for a minute. That's how I would have handled it. But that's not how she handled it. Rather than speak to me, she just invited that woman to get in front of me. And because the white lady refused, which I give her credit for, she asked her again, and the white lady said, no, I'm fine. And I knew at that moment that lady was going to complain. And I bet she did. Did I complain? No, because one, I don't want to get my own kind in trouble. And two, I don't want any trouble. But there comes a point, and thanks to all the comments that I read, when I realized it wasn't just me imagining getting bad treatment from my own kind, that no, I should have complained. And so, yes, I have decided in my own mind that I will complain from now on. And I've also decided how I complain. Because remember, this is still a small town. These are still mostly white owned businesses. And for the most part, there aren't a lot of African Americans in the front lines. So when you have a business like the grocery store that is pretty much privately owned, and I've been going there for 4 years and never saw a Black person until what, 6 months or so ago? That is a decision to be diverse. And my feeling is diversity is good. But when you do that, choose better. Don't bring somebody in here who looks like me, who's acting a fool, because now I'm insulted. So, yes, if I'm going to complain, that's the line I'm going to take. Because as a former small businessman, woman, I guess you could say, if you came to me and said my employee was rude, of course I'm going to be upset and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. But if you came to me and said, why would you hire that person that looks like me and is not even at the same level of your other employees, I feel insulted. That would hit me in my heart, and I would handle that right away. So that's why I've decided that's the line I'm going to take. Okay, now we get to the group that are in their mid 50s, 60s, and up. And this is the group I have the biggest problem with, believe it or not. I understand that either you went through a lot of racism or your parents told you about a lot of racism they went through, but there comes a point where the cycle has to stop. If you cannot get past something that happened 100 years ago, I didn't say forget it, but I do mean not have it rule your life to the point that you feel like you see racism in every single thing, then at this point, I consider you damaged. And when you make a comment on my channel under the disguise of supporting a Black content creator, and then you insult me at the end, sweetheart, that's the support I don't need. I mean, maybe most of you all have not noticed, but I am pretty much standalone. I don't hide behind a group of people or feel like I need a tribe. Although it's really nice to find that there were other people who went through the same thing I did, as far as noticing that some of our African American sisters seem to hate us, you know. But there comes a point where racism is never going to go away when certain older individuals keep it in the forefront. And so, no, I wasn't grateful that you supported me because I didn't ask or need your support. And I certainly didn't feel like I needed to put up with your insulting me at the very end. So, no, I think that there are certain ways of thinking that should be extinct. And the quicker the people who feel this are gone, or at least out of public view, the better we will all be as a race. Because at some point, we have got to stop being the victim. And at some point, we have got to stop making excuses for people who are bringing us down. within our own race. I watched a video um, about why it is that the worst class of Blacks have become the face of African American community. It was a hell of a good video. I would just like to see us as a race move forward, undamaged, unencumbered by things in the past, so we can actually enjoy what this life has to offer before we fuck it up with global warming or something. That is all I have to say. I am going to enjoy my birthday. I'm going to have dinner with some friends. I'm going to have dinner with family. I'm going to do another grandparent and grandkid thing with the friends from work. And I'm going to get my hair braided. I will see you all in about a week and a half with brand new do and my usual upbeat, happy attitude. Take care, stay blessed. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.